Welcome. In this video, the event, Light Chasing Sea of Stars of Azur Lane, which is currently running from the 21st of December 2023 to the 3rd of January 2024, will be summarized. Throughout the video, there will be spoilers for the story of Azur Lane. If you don't want to be spoiled, please go and play the game. The event starts with Guam enthusiastically starting a morning broadcast at 4:10 a.m. in the Sea of Stars, joking about the early hour. She plans to investigate ghost stories but is interrupted by Northampton 2, who points out their real purpose of picking up a teammate. Guam insists on filming the arrival and reveals her insider knowledge of the schedule. Princeton and Laffy, newcomers, struggle to navigate the complex facility and encounter Louisville. Guam surprises the three with a camera stunt and introduces herself as the Shipgirl presenter, while Northampton 2 clarifies their roles. Princeton expresses disappointment about missing key figures like Saratoga and Alaska and presents a dense list of work-related questions. Guam deflects to Northampton 2, and the team divides tasks for the facility tour. Northampton 2 explains the Sea of Stars' constellation-based codenames for blocks and departments. She reveals Guam's role in the Special Operations Force within the Secret Service block named Orion. Princeton learns about Saratoga and Alaska's positions as advisors and their absence due to official duties. Guam playfully mentions internal broadcasts, leading to a request for a battle simulation in the command block. Constellation unexpectedly appears, approving the simulation and introducing herself. Guam's accidental disclosure is explained, and Constellation takes Guam and Louisville for a customized simulation, leaving Princeton and Laffy with Northampton 2 for further guidance using the shuttle train. Princeton and the team travel through the vast Sea of Stars to the galactic core, encountering Seattle and Kearsarge from the Triangulum Department. Northampton explains their role in developing blueprint ships. They board another shuttle train, finally arriving at Area X for simulation. TB outlines the objectives involving a battle with Arbiter and testing Laffy's Type 2 rigging. Princeton is intrigued by the use of future data for the simulation, but learns its limitations. Constellation sets the rules, and TB emphasizes the termination conditions. The team prepares for the upcoming simulation. The team experience a simulated future landscape within the Sea of Stars. Princeton is amazed, but Northampton 2 reminds her it's basically just a sci-fi movie set. Laffy 2 feels stronger with her Type 2 rigging, explained as a simulated performance test to avoid risks in actual development. The rigging overwrite is limited to the simulation with no real-world impact. The testing begins, and TB generates enemy units resembling futuristic warships. Northampton 2 clarifies that they're mere reconstructions based on recovered data, with only appearances, numbers, formations, tactics, and estimated combat ability replicated. Laffy 2 likens it to a video game, and Princeton shows interest in the enemy flagship, Epimetheus. TB adjusts combat efficiency modifiers, and the team prepares for the simulation. In the Sea of Stars' Galactic Core Control Room, TB and Anchorage discuss Laffy's Type 2 rigging for a simulated performance test. It emphasizes mobility, electronic warfare, and drones. Princeton lacks a suitable prototype due to hull limitations. The elimination of enemies in the simulation reduces stress on processors, and Laffy 2 expresses satisfaction and requests more enemies. TB complies, enhancing future simulations. Langley interrupts, requesting Northampton's help for an off-the-cuff test. TB contacts Northampton, who apologizes and leaves for the urgent matter. Princeton and Laffy 2 prepare to face the Arbiter vessel, the Devil, with a modified objective to, quote, hold your ground instead of defeating her. The simulation briefing is sent, and combat initiates in 3 minutes. Back in the Sea of Stars testing block, Constellation informs Guam and Louisville about a salvage mission in the Coral Sea. Despite being against regulations, Saratoga approved it. San Jacinto leads the mission, linking up with Flasher, a submarine handling the data salvaging. The ship girls gather in a simulated world gateway. Flasher, a fan of Guam's shows, requests an autograph, while San Jacinto initiates the portal and they prepare to enter the simulated world for the salvage mission, aiming to investigate the battle in the Forbidden Area. Flasher assures them that she knows what to do, and the group, including Guam, Louisville, and Flasher, head into the portal for the mission. Back in Constellation's office at the Sea of Stars testing block, she sits in the dark, contemplating the horoscopes. In the Coral Sea simulation, Guam, Flasher, and Louisville prepare for a mission based on real memories. Flasher explains the regulations, emphasizing maintaining radio silence and forbidding weapon use. Guam expresses concern about being forcibly ejected, but Flasher reassures her that it's a special case. Guam feels uneasy about the simulation's events, understanding why Constellation may not want to witness them. Flasher emphasizes that it's just a simulation, not the real world. Despite her cancelled on-the-scene show, Guam focuses on the mission, and the group prepares to begin the operation. Despite Guam's familiarity with the historic battle, she feels nervous being there herself. Flasher detects a jamming device in the simulation, causing visual distortions. As they approach their destination, the blurriness increases and they encounter invisible barriers. Despite regulations against firing guns, Guam considers blasting through, but Flasher suggests salvaging data at the current location. Flasher explains the allegorical nature of data salvage, marking interesting elements in the simulation for analysis. The recovered data is sent to the Sea of Stars' computers for research. As they prepare to salvage, Flasher offers Guam a sunfish plushie for entertainment. After salvaging the data, Guam and her team receive a sudden call from Constellation. Constellation commends their judgment and reveals that abnormal data causing jamming needs immediate investigation. Constellation had analyzed the data in real time, breaking simulation rules with permission. She instructs them to return for the next investigation. Despite Guam's concerns about the hasty plan, Constellation assures them that it's safe and necessary. TB confirms that the data block surface poses no danger, but its compressed interior is unknown. Constellation decides to use the reality lens for analysis, citing the commander's success with Anchorage's data. Guam advises Constellation to reconsider, but she insists and cuts off communication. TB states that stopping Constellation requires unanimous agreement from the committee. Unable to reach the commander, and with a simulation reset taking 30 minutes, Guam wishes Alaska were present. TB reminds the participants not to communicate with the Arbiter vessel, and Princeton acknowledges. Said Arbiter vessel, the Devil 15, introduces herself as Devil, a second-generation Antiochus specializing in battlefield support. Devil explains the purpose of the experiment to gauge Antiochus and Consen fighting dynamics. Princeton is surprised by Devil's civilized manner of speaking, contrasting with their expectations of the Sirens. Laffy 2 remains silent, and suddenly she fires at the Devil twice, surprising everyone. Devil protests and Princeton starts feeling a strange kinship with the Siren. As Laffy 2 activates Annihilation mode, the combat test intensifies. In the aftermath of the combat test, Laffy 2 experiences issues with her rigging, and Devil advises her to utilize drones. Devil notes that, despite causing more damage, the system declares her the loser, and the test is declared over, but communication with Control Room is unavailable. Princeton decides to contact the Control Room, but gets no response. Concerned about the unusual situation at hand, Princeton considers the possibility of being caught up in an incident on her first day. Devil attempts to contact HQ, but her communication is also down. Devil suggests an equipment malfunction back home and offers to escort them back. Laffy 2 remains silent, and Devil decides to wait for the connection to stabilize. Constellation finds herself in an unknown simulation resembling the crown of the Polar North. The connection with the control room is lost, similar to the commander's experience with Anchorage's hull abnormalities. Realizing the importance of investigating the abnormal data, Constellation explores the area with San Jacinto. The active and seemingly alive crown raises questions about a potential second one unbeknownst to them. The situation intensifies with the emergence of a black tornado and a dark barrier, prompting Constellation and San Jacinto to flee. Simultaneously, inside the Sea of Stars control room, TB detects a hostile program attacking the galactic core systems, leading to emergency measures and the initiation of crisis mode. Anchorage is instructed to break the emergency glass and activate countermeasures. In the devastated New York City simulation, a black tornado wreaks havoc, accompanied by mist enemies, prompting Princeton and Laffy to fight them. Suddenly, the Devil reveals her awareness of being used in simulations and engages in a conversation. Despite the regulations, Princeton decides to confront Devil. The revelation that they are in a simulated space raises questions about the galactic core's capabilities. As the battle intensifies, Devil unexpectedly offers assistance, promising to handle the mist entities while guiding Princeton and Laffy towards an exit point. Princeton reluctantly accepts the aid, and Laffy receives coordinates for their escape, leading them to a glowing destination. Back in the Sea of Stars control room, Anchorage notices a glow and suggests breaking the glass, but TB reassures her that, in crisis mode, she has full control. TB successfully isolates the hostile data within a sandbox but cannot delete it. To prevent further communication issues, TB takes the system offline. Anchorage encourages TB to fight the data, expressing her support. TB is puzzled when Anchorage mentions drawing, as the visual display of the affected areas isn't a drawing to TB. Anchorage insists on drawing and mentions beacons and letters on the screen, leading TB to synchronize the analysis module. An intrigued TB acknowledges Anchorage's attempt to convey information through drawing. Now, in an unknown location, Laffy 2 and Princeton find themselves in a devastated area. Princeton is missing, and Laffy 2 is left alone. Communicating with others, including Guam and Constellation, they discover that multiple groups experience anomalies caused by the Black Tornado. Constellation feels responsible, but is encouraged to focus on finding a solution. Guam and the group decide to explore their surroundings for clues about the unusual situation. Constellation vows to use her powers to guide everyone home. Despite the challenges, the group remains determined to unravel the mystery and return safely. Flasher detects a strange reading underwater, leading to the discovery of a damaged metallic object. Constellation analyzes it and identifies it as a floating transmitter, potentially responsible for warping them. The group explores their surroundings and finds a vast, man-made space. San Jacinto's reconnaissance reveals a siren floating fortress and a trash heap resembling a mountain range. Drinking seawater, Guam discovers it lacks salt, indicating the entire ocean is distilled water. Laffy 2 detects unidentified signals, and Constellation suggests responding to gauge their intentions. The group prepares for potential encounters in the mysterious environment. The ship girls enter a combat-ready formation and engage with an unidentified fleet of floating warships, which approaches them in a stealthy manner. The fleet, known as Council's Task Force 5, demands information about the Sea of Stars testing fleet. The ship girls, led by Guam, explain their situation, denying any affiliation with the Council. The Council accuses them of being exposed to Category 5 corrosion from the Harbingers and initiates anti-corrosion measures. Despite the confusion, the ship girls prepare for battle and decide to give the approaching fleet a fight for the sake of gathering data. The ship girls face intense aerial suppression from the Council's Task Force 5, whose unmanned aircraft neutralize Laffy 2's electronic warfare systems. The unique hovering ships pose a challenge, and Flasher apologizes for feeling useless. Constellation considers their energy source and suggests continuing to fight to gather data. Despite the difficulty, Constellation plans to stay and hold out while instructing San Jacinto to create an escape route for the others. The primary goal is to extract as much valuable data as possible from the encounter. Guam faces difficulty as the Council's Task Force 5 intensifies their efforts to disarm the ship girls. Half of Guam's cannons are inoperable, prompting her to suggest a retreat. Constellation agrees, considering the danger of staying longer, and instructs San Jacinto to create an escape route to a Siren base marked on the map. However, as they plan to escape, a massive Siren machine, War Protocol Fortress, intervenes, revealing an error in the data and ordering the fleet to cease fire. Constellation and Guam scramble to devise a new plan, realizing that pitting sirens against each other won't work. Constellation suggests targeting the control unit, believing that defeating War Protocol Fortress may render the rest of the fleet vulnerable. Before the plan can fully unfold, a powerful explosion interrupts the conversation. In the midst of a fierce battle, the ship girls observe damaged drones landing on a saucer-shaped repair machine. Constellation notes the enemy's conservative approach with their warships, always retreating when slightly damaged. Guam suggests focusing on one target at a time, aiming to exploit the enemy's reluctance to take losses. Constellation designates an enemy for the ship girls to concentrate their fire on in an attempt to turn the tide of battle. War Protocol Fortress initiates combat mode, but Princeton Meta intervenes, instructing her to cease fire. Princeton Meta questions the ship girls about their attack on the Council's fleet. Guam identifies herself as in charge, but Princeton Meta reveals Constellation's leadership. Princeton Meta recognizes the ship girls are from another time and space, and decides to set up a temporary base. The Council's warships, including Citadel ships with large caliber guns, descend to the surface for repairs. Princeton Meta explains their situation, apologizing for the misunderstanding, and invites the ship girls for further discussion inside. But no photography is allowed in restricted areas, much to Guam's chagrin. Princeton Meta discusses the differences between their worlds. The ship girls are from a parallel universe, and Princeton Meta helps them find a Council beacon. The ship girls explain their situation, mentioning their animosity towards the Sirens. While Princeton Meta and War Protocol Fortress and Anti-X serve the Council. Confused by these ship girls' perspective, Princeton Meta questions their war against the Sirens and seeks information about their conflict with X. Constellation requests historical books, and Princeton Meta agrees to provide them. Princeton Meta receives orders from the flagship, and Constellation wonders why access is restricted. The ship girls prepare for dinner while pondering the complexity of gaining info from the Council. An hour later, Princeton Meta returns, apologizing for the delay due to another malfunction. The ship girl offers snacks, surprising Princeton Meta with treats. Guam explains their presence for non-standard rations. Constellation asks about Oxy-Cola, and Princeton Meta mentions the changed recipe due to an unspecified war. Silver Fox joins the conversation, emphasizing the limited interaction to avoid altering the space-time continuum. Constellation discusses fate and proposes a quiz format for asking questions. Silver Fox agrees but delays it due to a corrosion phenomena. A black tornado appears, prompting preparations for battle against the storm. The ship girls leave the base, observing a fraction of the fleet in flight. Constellation questions if it's sufficient, and Princeton Meta assures it's enough for the task. Guam expresses willingness to help but doubts the effectiveness of shooting into the storm. Princeton Meta explains that the corrosion phenomena occurs when corrosive entities gather, dissipating on their own over time. While the storm is weak, ignoring it risks widespread damage. The plan is to eliminate corrosion entities spawning near the storm to expedite its dissolution. Despite the theoretical option to let it fade, practical concerns necessitate their intervention. The ship girls agree to address the issue promptly. War Protocol Fortress alerts Princeton Meta about approaching unidentified forces. Princeton Meta identifies them as enforcers from the floating island base, expressing surprise at their sudden appearance. Guam provides details about the enforcer variants, combination, and attraction from Iron Blood documents. Princeton Meta is puzzled as her only knowledge includes them as a proposal in an anti-X plan. Fortress attempts communication but fails, considering the enforcers hostile after they shot down her monitoring drone. Princeton Meta initially doubts it was a mistake until Silver Fox advises them to stand back and let the enforcers and corrosion entities fight each other. Constellation questions the reference to sirens, and Princeton Meta confirms it, emphasizing the need to watch the battle from a distance. After observing the battle between the Sirens and corrosion entities, the ship girls, now back in the combat area, notice significant wreckage from the enforcers and warships. Princeton Meta expresses concern about the lack of salvageable remains and decides to gather supplies from the floating island. While collecting supplies, the ship girls discuss the Enforcer's surprising weakness, and Princeton Meta notices signs of a limiter on their wisdom cubes, suspecting it may affect their combat abilities. Guam and Constellation engage in a conversation about the implications of the limiters. Princeton Meta shares insights into managing metamorphosis and the potential risks. Laffy 2's Type 2 rigging is highlighted for preventing metamorphosis. Constellation inquires about removing the limiters, but Princeton Meta suggests it would be challenging. The ship girls are informed about receiving the Council's Unity Medal for their assistance. Despite reservations, Princeton Meta insists they earned it and offers the choice of a physical or E-medal. The ship girls opt for the physical medal, and Princeton Meta decides to use a 3D printer to create it. She encourages them to return to the base early, and mentions continuing their quiz. After returning to the temporary base, Silver Fox, a representative of the Council, thanks the ship girls for their assistance in the battle against the corrosion entities. Constellation downplays their contribution, but Silver Fox appreciates all assistance, setting a proverb about collective efforts. She introduces the Council Unity's medal and invites Constellation to proceed with her quiz. Constellation begins with a question about why the Council's fleet hovers above water, and Silver Fox explains the use of energy cubes and the dangers of traveling on water. Constellation attempts to correct the Council's actions to the threat of X, but receives no direct answers. The second question explores the nature of the Council as an organization, resembling the global consortium, but stronger. Constellation briefly mentions the Azur lane, prompting Silver Fox to skip the potential third question. Constellation then poses her third question about the term X, leading to Silver Fox's cautious response due to potential dangers. The fourth question inquires about the Antiochus, Anti-X, with Silver Fox providing detailed information about the large-scale weapon designed to combat unknown threats. Constellation expresses gratitude for the informative response. Moving to the fifth question, Constellation probes why the Council has come to their world, but Silver Fox offers no comment. Constellation senses Silver Fox's reluctance to answer and proceeds to the final question. Who are you? Silver Fox surprises Constellation by revealing herself as War Protocol Fortress, the Council fleet's AI. Constellation expresses frustration, and Silver Fox reminds her that they've answered 4 questions, prompting Constellation to answer 4 of theirs. Constellation reluctantly agrees, and Silver Fox prepares to ask her questions, particularly addressing Constellation as Lexington's little sister. In the second phase of the quiz, Constellation answers Silver Fox's questions. The questions cover the moon's soil, the Sea of Stars, wisdom cubes, the Sirens' organizational structure, and Project Dawn. Constellation answers reveal limited information due to secrecy. The quiz ends, and Princeton arrives with news of the repaired beacon. With Silver Fox's approval, they activate the beacon, transporting everyone back to the Coral Sea simulation. They find Princeton asleep, learn of the beacon's connection to their disappearance, and express hope for future reunions. The simulation ends, and TB reports the removal of a hostile program, initiating the exit sequence. The group anticipates returning home, ending with Constellation expressing her need for a restful sleep. In an unknown location, Essex Meta reflects on being too late to witness the beacon's light. Returning to the Sea of Stars Galactic Core Common Area, the team discusses the crisis resolution. Anchorage and TB work efficiently in the control room, with TB praising Anchorage's efforts. Data salvage and analysis are ongoing, managed by Flasher and Constellation. Guam questions the photography rule, and TB emphasizes the need for a report. Constellation, exhausted, falls asleep, leaving San Jacinto to write the report. Princeton admits passing out during the mission, and Guam laments Flasher and Laffy's disappearance, fearing responsibility for the mission report. Thank you for watching. Please follow my Twitter for updates, and please check out my other videos covering the Light Chasing Sea of Stars event of Azur Lane.